shows coming back and stuff. It's also a really weird time now because I think Texas is on like Friday started phase 3 or something of Texas's reopening, but we're also seeing like pretty major spikes in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations. I guess probably stemming from mostly like Memorial Weekend. So yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate Texas like rolling anything back at all because but yeah, it's definitely a really weird time. Yeah, it's definitely not how Texas rolls. But it's really weird because we're seeing like things moving forward and opening back up more, but we're also seeing like pretty huge spikes in cases, at least in Austin. So who knows what's going to happen?
Y'all are also have like a very huge population. I couldn't even begin to say an exact number at all. But here in Snyder, just for instance, look, so when we would test people at our hospital, local hospital, they would either be positive or negative, right? Then they went and tested a nursing home here. 29 tests, sent them off. Didn't do them at the hospital. They sent them off to wherever the fuck they get sent off to. And they all came back positive. But then about a week after that, they were proven to be false positive. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's really going on here? I'm pretty much just over it. Like, if it was up to me, I would go to those shows in June. But the wife, happy wife, happy life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, go
I
ahead.
would definitely like to go to shows again. Like I miss it, but at the same time, like I don't know. I miss shows for the fact of like being able to see bands live, and just enjoy the atmosphere and stuff that comes with it. But at the same time, it's just like I don't miss the stupid people, and I don't miss the delays and all this other stuff. And I mean, there's definitely things that I miss, but at the same time, it's just like I'll take it in stride whenever stuff opens back up. I'll trust that's when it's safe, So
Yeah, and especially because this is something that's just so new and something just so outside of the norm. It's really hard to gauge how it's gonna work out moving forward. So I just try to take it day by day, move forward best you can while still being as productive as possible. Just given the circumstances, you just do what you can and just keep taking it a step at a time. And yeah, not going to shows does kind of suck, but there's a million other things we have the definite possibility to do moving forward with all this happening. So I just see it as an opportunity to kind of like grow elsewhere as a person or however you want to use your free time.
Yeah, and I think one of the good things that's come out of this is it's given us more time to focus on like getting new songs written, practiced, recorded. Like we're currently working on finishing up like tracking for our first like EP release, which will be I think like 6 songs, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the not being able to like go to shows or play shows or anything like that has kind of given us more time to focus on that and knock some shit out.
Do y'all have an estimated date at all? I know that's kind of hard to do. So,
I mean, the timeline that I've had estimated for like the vinyl release that we're trying to handle, we want to be done with production by late July and like have it ready for release in August. But the vinyl itself won't be able to be released until like probably mid to late August. So, I mean, the full length was already supposed to be done, but with so many different like impacts because of 2020, we've just we've taken our time and made sure that like whatever we are going to put out is going to be quality. So like I don't know. We've definitely taken our time, and we've stepped back from trying to push stuff out as quick as possible to where now we're like, okay, we have a good time frame. We can get everything done in this time frame, and
Yeah.
Having
all the free time we've had now has been really nice, just to kind of like step back from just trying to put things out as quickly as possible, and kind of like sit down, take a couple minutes to think about what we've done, and just be like, oh, this sounds weird, let's do this instead, just kind of like refocus and kind of and also just try to help and not overthink things too much, if that makes any sense too. Like, it sounds kind of counterintuitive now that I think about it, but like taking some extra time to step back and listen through what we've done, rather than just go at it 110% of the time. Yeah,
because
exactly.
I know I've watched bands record, and there's always at least one member that you pretty much have to pry away from recording. That's just like, oh, just let me change this one chord. I didn't do that just me. Right.
I feel so bad. That's me. You can ask Nate. He's the one that's like, bro, it sounds good. Like, just leave it alone. I'm like, no, it still sounds wrong. Like, I spent probably 15 minutes of me just saying oof, like, right, for one of the songs. and I'm not even joking. Like, it's a real thing. It's like every time I said it, no matter like how I felt like it was being said in my head, it sounded weird. And I still think the final version that we agreed on doesn't sound as good as I said it the original time. So like, I don't know. It's just I'm definitely that member, and I'm very, very guilty of that. So,
at the same time,
the other guys
too, there's also that's also something super like important to consider. Like, yeah, it's never going to be 100% of the way there, but you want to get as perfect as possible. And I totally get that sentiment, because I am very similar. Like, I've had to train myself not to get over analytical, because then if I start to get to the point where I want it to be perfect, I just realize it's never going to get done. So it's kind of just been a matter of like training myself to be like, oh, I need to step away from this, otherwise I'm not going to move forward. It is difficult, but it's not a bad thing to have, but it's something really just like important.
And luckily I was able to track my guitar parts like at my place by myself, so nobody else was there to see me like replay the same 5 seconds like 20 times until I got it right.
No, yeah, I've done that before, so you're not alone.
Yeah.
So is there like a specific studio y'all go to in Austin, or
Yeah, it's called Nate's Apartment.
No, I mean, I've been recording for quite some time now. I've done a couple of releases for bands throughout the past couple of years, I would say. It's been just kind of like a passion project of mine that I've only recently kind of started to take a little bit more seriously and put a little bit more ice in the game for. And that's pretty much what we've been doing. We've been shooting the shit here at my place, been laying down tracks, and as soon as we get everything laid down, I'll go ahead and take care of the edits, take care of the mixing, the mastering, and then from there, it's just good to go.
Well, and that's amazing, because I'm really excited. I have specifically on Spotify, because that's what I use and what I know. I have a FSTTN playlist, and I would like to add y'all on that. But y'all were talking about releasing a vinyl. Have y'all put out anything on streaming stuff yet? Or I know I've asked, but I've never actually searched, now that I think about it.
We have our original demo that we kind of just threw out there just to show people, hey, we have music, and it's not just us like bullshitting y'all. And we put that on Bandcamp, but it's not like 100% something that we were comfortable with putting on Spotify. But when the full length is ready, we are gonna, make
that
sure
will definitely that will definitely be put on this to streaming platforms for sure.
Because I don't know. Excuse me, sorry. I don't know about the other guys, but I feel the audio quality for the full length is gonna from what I've just heard, it has so much more power and emotion to it as opposed to the other one. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little rushed, and we threw it out there, like I said, just for the sake of putting it out there. But this is you can see how much we've grown as a band and how much more we've settled into our sound, and you can hear our influences a lot more on this full length. So that's definitely what we want to put out for the public to hear, as opposed to anything else.
And I'm not like a audio guy by any means, but having talked to quite a few bands now doing this show, I don't know if y'all ever thought about it, but from what I've gotten from them, due to streaming devices algorithms or whatever nowadays, a lot of times releasing singles will help you out a lot. I don't know, I'm assuming with social media and the internet being the way it is now, everything is so fast paced, and you can just tell by looking at it. I don't know. So if y'all ever get the inkling to just release a single, it's kind of what are we gonna hear next? What are we, just a recommendation, but I'm also not qualified to give such recommendations at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've heard the exact same sentiment from a lot of other pretty more more versed people, if that's even the correct way to say it, in regards to putting out music, and their reasoning totally makes sense, just because like you were saying, people's attention spans are so short nowadays that you want to be putting out as much material as quickly as possible without, sacrifice. You don't want to sacrifice on quality, of course, but just so that you stay, top of mind, you want to keep putting out material just at a pretty decent pace. That way you don't get left behind, because I've seen this from a few bands back home, because I grew up in a pretty tight-knit scene back home, and I've seen a bunch of other local bands kind of fall into the trap where they keep, they're the total stereotypical big things coming soon band, where they're just teasing stuff, but it takes them a hot minute to put it out, but then when they put it out, it doesn't get as received as they had expected, just because people aren't paying attention to them. So I can totally see that there's a lot of truth in that. And it's also kind of a bit of a game with regards to how quickly you want to put stuff out, and how focused on the quality you want to put into it, because if you're good and you can put out quality stuff really quickly. But that would take that takes time to develop, and that's something that I feel like we would need to experiment with, if that's something we want to end up taking the route of, if that makes sense. I don't know how clear I was, and I feel like I started to ramble a little bit, but that's my sentiment.
Yeah, I feel like we will probably release. I know we haven't really talked about the release stuff that much, but I feel like we'll probably do at least one or two singles whenever they're ready, before we release the full length or full EP or whatever. But yeah, I in total agreement that it's good to put out stuff fairly consistently, and start putting out stuff early, just to kind of stay on people's minds, stay in their news feeds, build the hype.
A good way to describe it that I heard from someone one time was that it kind of gives the fans blue balls. you put out one single instead of a full album, and they're just like, oh god, I need to hear more. And but then you release another single, and they're just like, oh, I don't know. It's a weird way to describe it, but it makes sense because they're like, I just want to hear more, man. Just give me some more. And then you finally release that album, and they're just like, oh god, yes.